The sun was barely rising over the rolling hills of Kentucky when Ethan Colt laced his boots, the same way he had done since the day he joined the United States Army. The sound of his laces tightening, the soft creak of leather, and the cool morning air brought him back to the first morning of basic training when he was just 19, uncertain and afraid, but determined to serve. He remembered the drill sergeants shouting, the smell of duster and sweat, and the fear of failing. Back then, he was just a boy chasing purpose. Now, at 35, he was a man who had seen the world through the eyes of duty and sacrifice. Ethan's story wasn't one of glory, it was one of grit, loss, and quiet strength. He had grown up in a small town where flags hung from every porch, where the 4th of July was the biggest day of the year, and where everyone knew someone in uniform. His father, a Vietnam veteran, rarely spoke about the war, but the silence in his eyes said more than words ever could. Ethan had once asked him, "Dad, why did you fight?" His father took a long drag from his cigarette, exhaled, and simply said, "Because someone had to." Those 4 words stayed with Ethan. When the Twin Towers fell in 2001, Ethan was still in high school. The shock of that day never left him. He watched the news replay the same images over and over as smoke, screams, sirens, and something deep inside him hardened. A year later, on his 18th birthday, he walked into a recruitment center and signed the papers that would change his life forever. The first year was the hardest. Training broke him down and rebuilt him from scratch. He learned to march, to shoot, to survive without sleep, to trust his brothers more than himself. They came from different places in New York, Texas, California, but when they put on that same uniform, they became one. He still remembered the faces of his first squad: Ramirez, the joker who could make anyone laugh; Jordan, the quiet one who wrote letters to his wife every night; and Lewis, who carried a photograph of his newborn son everywhere he went. In 2004, they were deployed to Iraq. The heat was unbearable, the sand endless, and the fear constant. Every street corner could hide a bomb, every shadow could hold an enemy. Ethan learned to live with adrenaline pumping through his veins, to sleep with one eye open, and to find comfort in the smallest things: a letter from home, a shared joke, a quiet moment under the stars. But war always takes something from you. One night, during a patrol near Fallujah, their Humvee hit and eyed. The explosion threw Ethan to the ground. His ears rang, his vision blurred. When he crawled toward the wreckage, he found Ramirez and Jordan lifeless. Lewis was gone too, his photo of his baby son burning in the fire. Ethan sat in the sand, shaking, his face streaked with dirt and tears. That night marked him forever. He returned from that mission with the scar on his shoulder and another deep inside his heart that would never heal. When his unit returned home months later, they were welcomed with cheers, flags, and music. But inside, Ethan felt hollow. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat without hearing echoes of the deserted blasts, the cries, the sound of gunfire. People said, "You're a hero," but he didn't feel like one. Heroes came home whole. He came home broken. His mother noticed first. "You've changed, Ethan," she said gently one evening as he sat staring at nothing. He wanted to tell her that every time a car backfired, his heart jumped, that when he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of his fallen brothers, but he couldn't. Soldiers don't complain, they carry their pain quietly. Ethan stayed in the army, rising through the ranks, finding purpose again in leading younger soldiers, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to survive. He became a mentor, a steady voice in chaos. He led missions in Afghanistan, where the terrain was colder, the mountains higher, and the enemy just as invisible. He learned that courage wasn't about charging into battle, it was about waking up every day and doing your duty despite the fear. He saw more loss, more sacrifice. He carried fallen friends onto helicopters, folded flags, wrote letters to mothers who would never see their sons again. Each time, it broke something in him, but it also reminded him why he served: to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Years passed. Ethan's hair began to gray, his hands bore calluses, and his eyes carried stories too heavy to tell. He missed birthdays, weddings, funerals. His younger sister had 2 children he barely knew. His mother's hair turned white. His father passed away quietly one winter, leaving behind an old uniform folded neatly in a box. Ethan found a note tucked inside it. It read, "You did good, son. I'm proud." He cried that night for the first time in years. After 2 decades of service, Ethan retired. The world felt different now, slower, quieter. He moved to a small town in North Carolina, bought a cabin near a lake, and tried to build a life that didn't revolve around war. Some days, he'd sit on his porch watching the sunrise, sipping coffee, wondering what his life might have been if he hadn't enlisted. But deep down, he knew he wouldn't change a thing. He started volunteering at a local veterans center, helping others navigate the same struggles he once faced. He listened to their stories, shared his own, and found healing in their shared pain. It was there he met Sarah, a nurse who had worked with wounded soldiers during the war. She had gentle eyes and a quiet strength that reminded him of everything good in the world. They grew close, slowly, like 2 souls learning to breathe again. One evening, Sarah found Ethan sitting by the lake, staring at the reflection of the stars. "You miss them, don't you?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Every day," he said, "but I try to live for them." She placed her hand on his and said, "You already do." Over time, Ethan found peace, and not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from accepting. He learned that being a soldier wasn't just about fighting wars. It was about courage, loyalty, and love, the kind of love that puts others before yourself. He realized that though the battlefield had changed, his mission hadn't. He was still serving at this time, by helping others find their way home. Years later, on Veterans Day, Ethan stood at the local memorial, his uniform pressed, medals shining faintly in the morning light. He placed a small wreath beneath the names of his fallen brothers. As he stood there, a young boy approached him, no older than Ethan had been when he first enlisted. The boy looked up and said, "Sir, were you a soldier?" Ethan smiled faintly. "I still am," he replied. "Once you wear this uniform, it never leaves you." The boy's eyes widened. Was it scary? Ethan looked at the memorial, at the names engraved in stone, and then at the boy. "Yes," he said quietly, "but being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right anyway." The boy nodded, his eyes full of admiration. "I want to be like you someday." Ethan knelt down, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and said, "Then remember, Thesa, being a soldier isn't just about fighting, it's about serving. Wherever life takes you, serve with honor." As the boy ran back to his parents, Ethan looked up at the American flag fluttering in the breeze. The sky was clear, and the world felt still. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the years and the quiet pride that came with them. He thought of Ramirez's laughter, Jordan's letters, Lewis's photo of his baby boy. He whispered their names under his breath, like a prayer carried by the wind. That night, as he sat by the lake once more, the moon casting silver light over the water, Ethan reflected on his journey. He had seen death, destruction, and despair, but he had also seen courage, brotherhood, and hope. The army had taken him to the edge of humanity and brought him back stronger. It had taught him that true strength isn't in weapons or medals, it's in compassion, in resilience, in standing tall when the world tries to break you. In the silence, he felt the presence of his brothers beside him, their laughter echoing faintly in the night air. He smiled and raised his glass to the stars. "For all of us," he said softly. Somewhere in the distance, a flag waved against the wind, and for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt whole. He closed his eyes, letting the sounds of the night wash over him, the whisper of trees, the ripple of water, the faint hum of life continuing. The war was behind him now, but the lessons remained carved into his soul. Ethan Cole, United States Army soldier, survivor, and servant, had finally found peace, and though the world would move on, Though names would fade and battles would be forgotten, the life of one soldier, his courage, his losses, his love for his country would forever stand as a testament to what it truly means to serve. Because for Ethan, and for countless others like him, the uniform was never just cloth and color. It was identity, it was purpose, it was home. And home, he knew now, wasn't a place. It was the people you fought for, the memories you carried, and the peace you finally earned after the storm. That was the life of an American soldier, a life of honor, sacrifice, and unwavering love for a flag that, even through the darkest nights, always gave him something to stand for.